ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's conversation series, our monthly rendezvous. I know it is a much anticipated program, and thank you for joining us this evening. Welcome to our audience and those online. Uh, Please, if you're tuned in on YouTube, please like and subscribe our channel and also share a link to this conversation, as there's always somebody to impact. There's always somebody to just lay some seeds and start some conversations amongst ourselves. And we are also on all social media platforms. Thank you for joining us. I am Fbcsa, and I am your host this evening. And so in light of Women's Month, which is slowly drawing to a close, we thought we'd have a conversation not only amongst ourselves as women, but we also thought to start up some conversations across different generations, and also just to create some spaces in which we can carry out these conversations. And so the topic this evening is a conversation across generations, woman to woman. So welcome. This conversation is really inspired by a scripture in the Bible, which is in Titus chapter 2, verses 4 to 5, which is really instruction given about the role of older women in teaching and guiding the younger generation in building up their household. And this is also emphasized and supported by many African proverbs. I mean, one says that a younger man may walk the road faster, but the older man knows the road well. And one, as from my background in isiXhosa, which says inyathi ibuzwa kwabaphambili, which means wisdom and knowledge is sought from those who have gone before us. And so as we get started, I have got, as I've said, different generations. And so I've got what I call the 20s and the 50s club joining me this evening. And I'd like to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves, starting with you, Auntie, on my right-hand side.
Good evening, everyone. First off, apologies for my voice. I'm sure you will still hear me all the same. My name is Desiree Afor. I'm a very cherished daughter of the Most High God. I do fellowship here at Faith Bible Church, and I'm privileged to be on this podium this evening to share the nuggets of my 5 decades counting with the younger generations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Javier Mbappe, and I guess I'm representing the 20s club. And I'm excited to engage in the conversation this evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Karabo Kamdem, and I am a member of Faith Bible Church.
Is it my turn? Good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here tonight. I am Mimi Chape, and I look forward to the discussions.
Thank you. I've got a very well and good balance here tonight, so we're really looking forward to hearing perspectives from both the generations. And surprisingly, not only am I sitting in the middle, I'm also in the middle age-wise, so I'm somewhere there between. You can take a guess between the 30s and the 40s. And so, as I've said, we're not only looking to all younger women getting wisdom from younger generations. It also says that fire is you get a fire to pass it across from the source. And so it is really learning from one another. And so as we get into it, we first really need to establish, because we live in the age of AI, we live in the age where knowledge is at our fingertips, is it still really relevant intergenerational discipleship and guidance and teaching, and across the different generations. And I just want to find out from the women here tonight if it is so, and why it isn't. I'll start off with the younger generation, Javier.
I think intergenerational conversation is still very relevant because discipleship and mentorship is something that a lot of the younger generation needs. I think without guidance from those who have taken journeys or paths that we have not taken yet or do not fully understand, we can be a little bit lost. So I think intergenerational conversation is still very important.
Great, thank you very much, and that's very good to hear. What do the older, seasoned women think, Antidi?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think absolutely right. There's a saying that says that what an old person can see sitting down, a young person cannot see, even if they climb on a treetop. Right. Which means that the more you have lived, the more experiences you have had, and the more you can share from a lived experience. Because yes, we live in the day of AI. You can Google anything, and by the way, those things online are people's opinions, some of them head knowledge, not necessarily from a lived experience. And so while we can, Google anything and find anything, but I imagine and I want to believe strongly that speaking from a place of experience is necessary, right? I think even in the normal evolution of life, children are born into homes, younger ones are older ones, and the generations ahead, you know, groom and hand over and hold the hands of the generations that are coming up. So yes, I believe absolutely. Even more so in the day and time of today, when there is a confusion of knowledge out there, I think that getting that hand down from a source of experience is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Antidi. And I just want to specifically address to Mama, is this really about learning the right things to do? And, do older women openly share everything about their experiences, or do you have your own boundaries and restrictions?
I think it's not necessarily about, having done everything right, but rather from a position of having learned through the experiences that we've gone through. So there's always safety in counseling. So if you receive counsel, you're better placed to make decisions that are informed by, the experiences that others have lived. So as older women, we've had experiences in life, good and bad. We've made mistakes. We've seen others make mistakes. And I think all of that provide a compendium from which the young people can pull out nuggets and actually live better lives than we have lived. And it's also, as we talk with the younger generation, we're also able to tell them that, it's possible to do these things, especially as we model it to them. And also, we also provide an opportunity for them to be able to contextualize some of our experiences and live them out based on their own personal convictions. So I think it's very important for those conversations to happen.
Thank you, Mama. So it's not only about wisdom, but also lived experiences, which can have both good and bad experiences as teaching moments. And so we're going to go through some 6 areas of life that we've just picked and believe that they are highly relevant to both young people and older people. And we're going to start off with the aspect of faith. We're going to start off with you once again, Javia, in terms of in watching older women around you, what have you learned about faith and are grateful to be learning quite early on in life? And what do you think the younger generation is actually missing out on when it comes to faith?
I think one of the things that I've observed in the generation above me when it comes to faith is faithfulness, in the ability to show up in and out of season when they feel like it and when they don't. I think it's very remarkable to value your position with God, even when your circumstances don't reflect it. So being able to show up for church and be a steward in your ministry and the places that you're put in your workplace, and then also being still intentional with being intimate with God in your private space, it's something that is very commendable, and I think in addition, the younger generation needs help with. I think because we are more led by the things in which we feel and the things in which we see sometimes, we lack the ability to show up when it doesn't look good or when we don't feel like it. So I think that's something we can definitely learn.
Thank you. So the aspect of faithfulness in and out of season. I'm going to come to you, Auntie D, in terms of what have you noted as challenges that perhaps the younger generation is having when it comes to faith, and maybe you can also share your own journey with faith and how that has built you up as the seasoned old lady that you are today.
Oh yeah, seasoned old lady indeed. So let me start with my let me start with my own journey, right? Before I say what I think that I observe. So my own journey of faith started with a place where I thought that a relationship with God was trying to do things right, just being involved many activities, right? More of activities, go to church, we are in the choir, I used to lead the liturgy for those who know the churches where we used to lead the liturgy. And I would stand there on that stage and just narrate this thing off the top of my head without even paying attention to what it said, right? And I thought in my best attempt that I had a relationship with God until I realized it is really about intimacy with God, right? It's about not because your parents ask you to go to church. And I think I was doing this thing more to satisfy my parents, really, than from any conviction. Until then, I realized, you know what? You need your own personal conviction, and you need to develop your own intimacy with God, right? And that for me has been the place of my journey to say, everything said and done, it's about a one-on-one relationship. Really, it's an audience of one, me and God, and how I present to that audience of one. Now, what do I observe in the younger generation of today? And I will not take that context too far out. I would leave it to what I observe even here in Faith Bible Church. Is that sometimes it would appear like the younger generation are almost nonchalant, right? In the sense that it's almost an observance of the environment more than focusing on that relationship with God, right? Like it's and I'm sure we all went through that stage, honestly, in your early teens and teenagehoods. It's who's looking at me, what would they think of me if they see me dancing this much or singing this much in church and that kind of thing, and if I'm the one putting my hand up to do everything, what would they think of me? Yeah, and very, very soon you get to realize that, you know what, no one was even looking at you after all. Like it didn't even matter, right? So I would say to the younger ones, create your space, create your bubble. It's you and your God, and just be in there and serve your God.
Create your space. That is actually so excellent, and I think it really speaks to the young people because they are about crafting their identities and really being unique and setting themselves apart. So even in the church and in faith. And we're going to turn to you, Mama, not only as a great example as our leader in the church, but also just reflecting perhaps on your own faith journey as a younger Mama.
Yeah, in terms of my own journey, there are a few things I'm really grateful to God for that I've come to learn and know. One of them being the importance of living by faith and understanding grace. I come from a legalistic background. As a young believer, for me, the journey of faith was really about do's and don'ts. It was about, performance. And as I've grown in my journey with God, I've come to realize that faith and grace are so important because they bring you into a place of rest, a place of complete dependence and trust in God. Grace tells you that even when you fail, you can still run back to God. And that's such a powerful lesson for me, that I will not always get it right, but the grace of God will carry me through. Not because the grace of God gives me that permission to live carelessly, but because the grace of God is able to point me back on track, to the right track, through love. So the grace of God has been the revelation of the grace of God has been such a powerful thing that I've carried along my faith journey, that without any hesitation, I would like to pass down to the younger generation. And also just understanding that my life is lived out in absolute trust and dependence on God, which is my faith. That I don't know sometimes I don't have it figured out. Sometimes I don't even know what to do. But by faith, I'm able to follow and get through the different hurdles of life. As Javier was saying earlier on, you see, some of the struggles that the young people have is struggling with being able to understand faithfulness through different seasons. I would say the grace of God, depending on the grace of God, can see you through the different seasons of life, when you understand that grace is unmerited favor, grace is that thing that puts in you the ability to be able to sail through different situations and circumstances. It gives you rest in God. I think there's so much pressure that comes uh, with with growing and with Christianity sometimes, because we have other options that we think could actually help us through these difficult and challenging seasons. But I just want to remind us that the grace of God is always more than enough. The grace of God is that thing that tells you that irrespective of where you are, I am with you and my grace is sufficient. My grace will take you through. My grace will cause you to come forward, and my grace will sustain you. We are saved by grace, and our faith journey must be sustained by grace. I think Paul was telling Galatians somewhere that, who told you that having started by the Spirit, you will continue by the flesh? He said, oh, ye foolish Galatians. So it is foolishness not to trust God and not to walk with God throughout the journey of Christianity, whether you are a young woman or an older woman. There are also many things that I've learned. I've learned about gratitude, the importance of focusing on the things that the Lord has done, as opposed to focusing on what I do not have. I've learned the importance of humility, and I've learned the importance of just walking with the Lord and keeping in step with the Spirit of God. It frees us and it helps us to be able to contextualize our faith based on the circumstances around us.
Powerful. Thank you so much, Mama. I think that was really fully packed in how young people can walk the journey of faith. Truly, His grace is sufficient for us. And I think that also just addresses the challenge that Javier brought up earlier in terms of how to walk in faith in and out of season. And Mama has said, God's grace is indeed sufficient for us. And in Mama mentioned the pressures of life. I want to come to Karabo now and just look at the second area of life that we wanted to address, which is your career and purpose, and to say really, what have you learned along your journey in your young years that has kept you from falling into unnecessary pressures when it comes to your career and purpose?
What I've learned is that my career is what I do, and it's not who I am. I don't have it all figured out at 23, and that's okay. And then the fears that I have is, how do I find balance, or how do I balance Karabo at work and Karabo at home how do I build a meaningful career without breaking or ruining the relationships I have at home or destroying my peace? So that's my question to my older Jen.
How to balance between career and home life. But before we look to the older Jen to address that, we're also going to just get Javier's perspective.
I think it would be a lie to say that even with the knowledge that I feel like I've learned from the older generation, that there's still not a level of pressure, because pressure sometimes is also environmental. It's the circumstance or even the age group that you're in currently, because for some reason, the society that we live in has placed certain expectations on certain age groups. So even when you have the knowledge that you may learn, there's still a level of pressure. And for me, I've definitely learned that things aren't linear, that your career and your purpose are not a linear way or path that you can walk. You will end up zigzagging, going different directions, and I think that's been very helpful. And another thing that I think with purpose is that purpose is something that you don't necessarily have to delay finding. You can find your purpose early, but it has to be an active pursuit. You have to be in communication with God, asking Him, well, Lord, you've given me these gifts. What do you want me to do with them? And that's a way in which we can navigate and find purpose. I think my question to the older women is, how do you find the balance between being a woman who may and should value her career, but also finding purpose and your rightful place in your family and your home life.
Okay. That seems to be quite very clear from the younger generation. They really want to find that balance. Right. Again, before we get into addressing those, I really want to find out from you, Auntie Desiree, what you thought when you were growing up, what success was, and how it has turned out, and how your definition of purpose has evolved over time.
Okay, thank you. So, growing up, and just a little bit of background, right? I come from a family of 4 girls. And if you know our traditional expectations, it was that if there's no son in the house, then there's something lacking, right? And so we grew up with all of these notions of, oh, no, girls, what will you amount up to? So for me, success was really teaching the people around me to say, you know what, I will succeed anyhow, girl or not, right? So it wasn't, I was driven more by proving a point. And it was what? Ace it in school, get a job, get married, have children. And that was it. That was the picture of success as I thought about it at the time. And as the younger ones have said, by the way, it's not anything that is started in this generation. Even in our generation, careers have never been linear, right? We went to school, we studied other things, got out of school, find ourselves in very different spaces, and we learned to survive in there. And so for me, purpose really evolves, right? I started off with the purpose of wanting to prove a point to whoever thought that I could not. But I've since learned that, by the way, it's not the definition of the purpose, or not the definition that is placed on me by whoever thinks whatever, but it is really trying to answer the question, what does God expect of me? Right? Why am I here? Like Javier was saying, skills and talents, I guess I have some skills and talents that other people might not necessarily have. Other people have skills and talents that I might not have. So it's really getting to understand, with what I have, what am I required to deliver, right? And continuously iterate and continuously refine and grow that. So for me, that's been my journey of career and my journey of understanding purpose and continuing to build on that purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. And what would you say in terms of what the younger generation sees as a gap in their context, finding the balance in growing a career and still maintaining relationships?
Oh, balance. You see, the thing with balance is, when you speak about balance, you almost feel like it has to be equal on every side, right? Like if you're holding 2 balls, it has to be 50-50. However, these days, more and more, we really talk about work-life integration, right? It's never going to be a balance, to be honest. If your focus now is, I want to grow my career, in the family side, something is going to be giving, right? If I am focusing on my family now, on the career side, something is going to be giving. The essence, though, is to be sure that when you focus somewhere, you focus there and you give it your all, and you play your best role in that place and in that time, so much so that when you are now changing that focus to another place, the people in that space understand that it is not because you cannot, right? Because you have already proven that you can. It is not because you cannot, but it is simply because that focus is shifting. I was saying the other day that if there's any one good thing that might have come out of COVID, is the fact that it broke that wall that seemed to be like, this is Desiree at home, and then this is Desiree at work, right? What COVID did was it brought all of us into every one of us, of our homes and our lives, and life and work kind of merged, right? And so you're going to be yourself, whether it is work, whether it is home, whether it is in whatever other space you are, it is going to be you. You are one holistic being. However, you try and get the integration of the different parts of you, focusing where you need to focus at a given time, but making sure, of course, that the other doesn't break. You cannot focus 100 and then 0 on the other side, yeah? But making sure that you having a good distribution of that focus. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. I hope the younger generation is getting some tips out here. Mama, now we coming to you. How has your journey looked like?
Yeah, my definition of success and my journey has actually been very unique. Initially, I had thought, success would be on a linear path, which is I study, I plan, I go to school, I choose the right course, I do well in school, and once I've finished my studies, there's a job that is waiting for me because I fit into a certain job. But sooner than later did I realize that that definition was not the right definition for success. Because as soon as I finished my microbiology degree and I returned home, I didn't get a job as a microbiologist. There were no jobs. The opportunities were not there. So I was now well schooled, but I couldn't get a job. So that had to take some flexibility for me to do what I found. The Bible says, whatever your hand finds to do, do with all your might. So I had to then start off life as an admin. I started off life as an admin, and I eventually grew up through that path and to become what I am currently today. And I also just want to say that purpose is also not linear, as we've heard already, but that my journey of purpose has also come from different experiences. So with regards to reinventing, being flexible with career, I've come to learn purpose through a journey, using the gifts that God has given me, using the opportunities, learning about what purpose is, serving, and through service, the Lord directing me. Through counsel, even the older people will see things in me that I did not see for myself. And they helped to direct me into my purpose. As well as, in addition to that, I think one other thing that really helped me to discover and to walk in purpose that I currently am working in was the fact that I had my own personal nudges of the things that, from all these experiences, it was actually directing me in a certain way or in a certain path. And then there were confirmations. There were confirmations about what it is that God is calling me to do. And that's why I really appreciate that, because the Bible also tells us in the mouth of two witnesses, a thing is established. So sometimes you need people that you trust to be able to confirm some things that you see that you're not sure of. And of course, there's always going to be mistakes. You will fail sometimes. You will think you got it right, and then you will realize, oh, no, I didn't. It doesn't stop you from continuing. So you get up and you continue. So the path of purpose, of discovery of purpose, is wrought by a lot of ups and downs. However, if we stay focused, we'll eventually get it right.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much, Mama. And I think that really should take off the pressure of that young person that is sitting there thinking that they don't have it all figured out. It's not linear, and you really need some adjusting pivots here and there until you get it right, and as you find your purpose as well. Right, as we move on, I think the next thing to speak about straight after career is money, right? I'm going to once again start off with the young people, Karabo, in terms of what lessons about money are you learning from the people around you, from the women around you, that you're grateful to be learning quite early, and where do you think your generation is missing the mark in this current context?
I've learned that money needs direction. If you don't tell money where to go or what to do, it will disappear. So save, even if it's small, even 100 rand, just save something. And then the gap or the fears that we have is that we are taught how to save, but we're not taught how to grow the money that we're saving. So, Abo Mama, please maybe shed some light on how to grow the money that we've been saving.
Okay. So we're creating some new conversations here, some spaces, for continued even after this conversation itself. Javier, what have you learned in your journey?
I would say that I've definitely learned how to distribute my money when I get it. So budgeting is something that I think I learned pretty early from the women around me, learning how to tithe, how to save, how to invest, and then doing what you can with what you have left. And I'm very grateful for that. I think the thing that our generation struggles with, to echo what Karabo said, is firstly, yes, how to invest and make money grow, but secondly, knowing how to delay the use of our money. I think it's kind of linked, but we are in the you only live once generation, and everybody is using money kind of frivolously sometimes, and not necessarily thinking about the future. So I think a lesson on how to be less frivolous with our money is very important as well.
Thank you for that. Would like to go first? uh, Auntie, how has your journey with money been like? And in terms of what you're noting, where are the younger people missing the mark and you'd like to advise them on?
So the journey with money, right? First fact to establish, savings is good, right? If you don't save, you can't grow. I mean, if you grow zero, it's zero. You need to save. But personally, I used to be a saver. Oh my goodness! When I started working, and I had a bank account back in Cameroon, Eco Bank, back in the days. Imagine month end, I would go write my check, cash out all my money, go sit home nicely, put them in envelopes, and that was me saving. Then every saving was our normal stock fair and jangi. They put them in the jangis and all of that. And looking back now, I'm thinking, you know what? Why didn't I just even leave my money there? It would at least give me, even if it was a 1% interest, right? So lesson learned, savings is good because I had the discipline, I could get the money, when I needed to use it. However, growing money is also very necessary, right? Being able to grow your money, being able to, and it takes patience, by the way. It takes time, it takes patience for money to grow. The rush of and I guess it's the world we live in today where there's so much exposure to so many things, where it almost feels like you blink your eye and the next moment the person sitting next to you is a millionaire from creating content or from doing this and from doing that, and that whole pressure just keeps coming, and regulations that I believe really don't work in favor of our younger ones, right? Betting here and there, all kinds, just easy access to even things that shouldn't be there. That again echoed what like Javier said, to say, you know what, it kind of puts you in the space where you're feeling like, I live my life now and have it now and all of that, right? So again, to the younger generation, savings is good. It's a good culture. I applaud you for starting that. Continue with it, but you need to learn to grow, right? I think Mama will speak about the how to learn to grow, but yeah, because she has some interesting experiences in that regard.
Great. No, thank you so much, Auntie D, for that. It's actually, there's an interesting stat. I think we all know that women are gaining more independence when it comes to having their own money. However, only 45% of women report confidence in managing complex investments. And so I think the confidence in managing money is becoming, is now the gap when it comes to women. So space, opportunity has been created, and Mama will lay the seed in how those conversations can go forward, as she just puts in her perspective on this.
Yeah, I think money is important. It's a tool. It answers all things. But it can also be a master if you allow it to be. So my advice to the younger generation is to understand the value of money, and to also understand that money, there's a spirit behind money. So with money, we need discipline, we need good stewardship, and we also need wisdom. So in terms of making money, I think we need every child of God who has the mind of Christ should always think of how to use money wisely. Good stewardship starts by honoring God with our finances, right? Knowing what belongs to God and what belongs to us. Before I became a Christian, I come from a tribe where we make money. So I learned how to make money from my mother's womb. If I can say so, because I cannot remember a time when I was not multiplying the little money that they gave me from either from pocket money, from gifts, to make it, more. When I was in primary school, I sold sweets. In secondary school, I was a photographer. During holidays, I would go to my granny, and my granny would give me some money, and I would buy salt and sell just to multiply. So I've had to multiply money, but as I've grown, I've also understood the value of money, the spirit behind money, and also the importance of dedicating your money to God. As young people, if we are not careful, we live in a consumer society. There's so much, pressure to get things. There's so much pressure, to present ourselves in different ways when we cannot even afford to do so. And therefore, we need to be very disciplined. As young people, there's a discipline that goes with money. We talked about the importance of giving God his own, the importance of prioritizing our spending, the importance of not getting yourself into debts and unnecessary, because of the unnecessary pressures and unnecessary comparison, looking at people on social media and thinking that life is that easy, and you want to look rich when you are even very unstable in your own personal income. So it's very important to understand the place of, trying to get money in the right way, because otherwise you will actually be pushed to do the wrong things to get money. And that in itself is not going to be blessed. So you will carry the accursed thing, and of course there will be consequences for that. So it's important that we live within our means as children of God. Look for ways of growing your money, whatever you can. Use your brains. If God has given you brains, use your creative powers to be able to be a good entrepreneur. If you do not know how to do it, we have an empowerment team here in the church that can help you. We have financial experts in the house that can help you. Think about little things you can do, the little difference you can make wherever you are. Monetize it. Get money, but don't spend it to just reward yourself. It's good to reward yourself, but reward yourself after you've done the things that are important. After you've put aside some for saving. Because there are some things that you may not be able to afford right now. You save to get them. Don't indebt yourself. Don't say, I'm always on the case of my children. I check their bank accounts, and if it's on negative, you will tell me why your account is on negative. Because if your account is on negative, it means that you bought things that you could not afford. So we must desist from debts. Live according to your means. If you can't afford it, let it wait. If you can't afford it, ask yourself, is it even a need or a want? Once it's a need, then trust God to make provision for it. If it is a want, it can wait if it is necessary. If it is not necessary, you can forget it. So I think the lessons on money are just too many, but I will stop there.
Thank you so much, Mama. If you have just joined us, we are having a conversation across generations, women to women. We have just looked at 3 areas of life where the older women are sharing their experiences, and also the younger women are just addressing some gaps that they see in their age range and some questions that they have. We're quickly now going to go into relationships. So I would like to ask Karabo, in terms of what have you learned from marriages around you and the relationships around you that you're grateful to have learned, and also what are your own fears when it comes to relationships and ultimately marriage?
I've learned that a a good marriage is not a perfect marriage. And then um, I've learned I've learned through watching my parents go through trials and tribulations, and not just how they pose for pictures that okay, they go through it, eh? But yes, and then fears that I have is how do I identify respect and kindness early on? Yeah.
Okay. Very quickly, Javier, on your side.
Through my family and the people around me, I've definitely learned, obviously, that a very important part of relationships and marriage is firstly having a godly partner, somebody who fears the Lord. Secondly, being with somebody who you share moral values with, who has similar beliefs as you, and then also somebody who is your friend. Because when infatuation goes away, it's very important that the person that you choose to spend your life with is a friend. And then I think the question that I would have for the older generation about navigating relationships is how to be a good partner. What does good partnership look like? Because from what I've heard from my peers and people around me, some of them have not seen that have not seen that modeled in their families. So what does that look like, being a good partner?
Mama, if you can just very quickly tell us what, what have you learned about choosing a spouse, and also how do you grow partnership in a marriage?
Okay. Choosing a spouse is very serious because marriage can either break you or make you. Somebody said, love is blind, but marriage is an eye opener. So if you are not careful in choosing your partner prayerfully and with right counsel, it's possible that you will live a miserable life in marriage. So my advice to the young people is that you prayerfully choose your partner. You go through counseling, because in counsel there is safety. But you observe the person that you intend to live life with. Because it's about marriage is a serious decision. It's not sampling. It's a decision for life. And therefore, just like investments, you need to think before you get into investments. You also need to think before you get into that marriage, because it's an investment for life. So you would watch things around character. And marriage is really about purpose. So if the element of purpose is not inculcated in the choice of a partner, you could be going to different directions. So it's important that you understand where the person that you want to really live the rest of your life with is going, and then you confirm that that is where you're going. Because it could start as an infatuation, it could start as, love at first sight. But love at first sight is not always love forever. So it's important that you know where you're going. And of course, understand, from Genesis 2:24, it says, a man shall live and cleave, the two shall become one. They were both naked and they were not ashamed. So it's important that you are able to have open discussions and conversations with the person that you're going to be getting married to. Watch their characters for the red flags. Those red flags will not change. The person that you're going to get married to is not going to change in marriage. In fact, in marriage, they're going to be themselves. Before marriage, they can be, pretending. After marriage, they will be themselves. So you need to really be careful and get to understand what the person does. Get to understand if you can really submit yourself to the person, and if the person can submit themselves to you. Love is a decision. And once you've taken that decision, you have to stick with it. So we must be very careful. But beyond even just marriage, even in our relationships, I think that's another part that is very important. As a child of God, you need to watch the relationships that you keep. And you also need to preserve and you need to protect your family relationship. Before you get married, you'll be part of a family. So the way you have been acting in your family is the way you will carry it along into the other family. So start acting right and start, understanding that your family may not be the best. Your family may not be the best because there's no perfect family. Accept your family for what it is. There are going to be situations where there's going to be misunderstanding. Learn to forgive and move forward. Don't compare your family to any other family. The other family is different. Your own family is unique. So stay within the context of your family. Learn how to live within the family. Appreciate the family. Grow in the family. And have Jesus as a foundation. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much, Mama. As we are very quickly running out of time, I also want to address, when we talk relationships, especially with women, friendship is a very big thing. We sometimes often closer to our girlfriends than we are to spouses and even. And so, Javia, what have you learned about friendship in your young journey?
I've learned that friends are honest. I think when I was a little bit younger, I used to fall into the patterns of people pleasing, thinking that in order to keep friends, I needed to be agreeable to either their behaviors or things that they wanted to do, so on and so forth. But I later on learned that being a good friend is being honest, telling the truth about when you disagree or when you think they're going down a path that doesn't reflect who they are. And I've also learned that being a good friend is being someone who is consistent. But as you get older, consistency looks a little bit different than when you're younger. So when you're younger, you're all in the same schools, you see each other every day, but now, because you don't do that, consistency looks like checking in on your friends, making sure that you put them in your prayers, good times and bad times, being there, showing up for them, that kind of consistency. Those are the things I've learned about friendship.
That's excellent. And as we draw to a close, Auntie Desiree, apart from this very rich conversation that we have had, thank you if you're just joining us. Please do just go back to the beginning of the conversation as we were just discussing some areas of life in women's lives and just learning from both generations of older women and younger women. And as we've had this conversation, Auntie Desiree, what does it look like practically and also just going forward and outside of the spaces where there's intergenerational support amongst women?
Thank you. So I believe we're fortunate to be in this space. Let me begin from the church, in Faith Bible Church, right? We have our meetings, women's meeting. Let me say that because we're talking here about women. We have those opportunities and fora that have been created for us to be able to interact, right? The younger and the older. To be able to pass down these nuggets of knowledge. But beyond that, we're blessed in this community, in this church, to have really women, right? Mature women, women of faith, women that are grounded, that can, that we can learn from. I believe it's also, the young ones need to also seek, right? Seek for the mentorship, reach out, seek and ask questions, but also for us, the older generation, to really make ourselves available, right? Available to be spoken to, and to really share from a place of vulnerability. Sometimes just being that vulnerable, right, is the lesson that can be learned by the younger generation. So, in my view, it is very important, very necessary. Intergenerational conversations need to happen. It has to happen from both sides. The interest has to be shown from both sides, by the way. If us, the older generation, have things that we hold close to our hearts and we don't intentionally pass that down, we lose that opportunity to have that being carried forward, right? And for the younger ones also, it's about, like the Bible says, as the deer panted for the water, seek it, want it, ask for it, knock, ask, yeah, and the door shall be opened.
Seek and you shall find. And I think there's also another African proverb that says, when an old man dies, the library burns. So all that knowledge and that wisdom then goes off. And as we close quickly from you, Garabo, in terms of what do you hope will change because of your generation, perhaps in your family and society at large?
I hope our generation is a generation of less shouting, more listening. And I hope our homes are filled with faith, Monday to Sunday, and not just Sundays at church.
Right. I think that's a call to the older generation. And lastly, from you, Mama, what do you hope will change because of your generation?
Yeah, I think there's beauty in having these intergenerational conversations. I think one of the things that we need to work on is on creating those spaces, right? Auntie Desiree just talked about one of the spaces that is already there that can actually be used. But I also want to say maybe the way we approach it. Karabo was saying earlier on, less shouting.
More listening.
And more listening. And that's so true. I think we need to create spaces where the younger ones can feel safe to tell us whatever it is they are going through. Ask us whatever question they want to ask us. And be open to learn from us, as the older generation. Not because we have figured it all out, but because there is some wisdom that we've been able to acquire along the path of life. And the beauty of passing it down and knowing that even if we didn't get it right, we can still bring those lessons that we learned through the process of not getting it right to another generation is so beautiful. So, and there's also a lot of, learning that we as the adults can actually, or the older generation can get even from the younger generation. The younger generation have their own way of doing things, which means you give them the counsel, you give them the chance to be able to apply it in their own way, in their own context. And also, all of us growing through, because if you ask questions about why they do things in a certain way, you'll be able to get answers. So we create spaces where they can grow, but we also create spaces where they will not run away from us, and we will not force them to become who we were, because the generations are so different. So there is beauty in having these conversations as we learn from each other and as we sharpen each other to be able to move forward in ways that are pleasing to God.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mama. And so that brings us to the end of our conversation. You had joined us for a conversation across generations, woman to woman. I do hope that this conversation has sparked already some debate and some discussions amongst women, whether it be in your family, in your workspaces, in your friendships, where you do seek out and reach out to the older women, and where older women are also willing to share their lived experiences with the younger generation and perhaps also learn a thing or two, as Mama has said. Thank you for joining us. We're Faith Bible Church based in 316 College Drive Q. Please do join us this Friday for our encounter with the King. I am Solami Basal. God bless you.